Today's bout of stage 6 power cuts will be the longest we've seen this week because it'll start at 2 p.m. and continue until midnight. Let's speak about the situation. We're joined now by Chirs Yelland, an energy expert. Chris, good to have you. What do you make of this latest statement from Eskom?
Well, it seems to be clear that this wage dispute is not over yet. Minister Gordhan recently said that a settlement had been reached, but it clearly has not been reached. Negotiations are still in progress. The return to work that had been called for by NUM and NUMSA has been slow in happening. And I think the unions are still flexing their muscles in readiness for negotiations tomorrow. So we are in the middle of this. And until this is settled, I think we're likely to see this level of load shedding continue. And let's hope that the settlement is reached soon. These things are inevitably always settled at one point or another.
Right.
But there's a lot of arm twisting on the way.
So when we got that briefing from the Public Enterprises Minister and the management at Eskom, there was no wage agreement announced, but it had appeared that there had been middle ground that had been found and workers would go back to work, and Eskom did say this was starting to happen yesterday morning, but not everyone was back. Now, if there was already that friendly, shall we say, agreement between the two, yet some workers have continued to stay away from work, what does it suggest about the success of tomorrow's talks?
Yeah, as I say, I think it's still a case of exercising what influence they can by flexing their muscles. And, of course, the return to work was not an immediate, not all 100% came back. They are slowly coming back to work, I suppose, when people start feeling safer as well. So people want to see that there is a safe working environment, and so people are going to be a little bit cautious about just returning to work. Mm-hmm. And so I think people are playing it cautious. In the meantime, the negotiations are taking place, and as I say, with some luck, maybe a settlement will be reached soon. But I have heard that the unions have rejected Eskom's 7% pay offer. But, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there at the moment.
Yeah, the unions say that's not true. They've issued a statement saying that they've not rejected any offer, and in fact, we should all wait for them to meet tomorrow at the bargaining forum where all of this will be discussed. But on the statement from Eskom today, they say that what has happened now with workers either not returning to work because they're still on strike or being intimidated, that's now interfered with its ability to carry out maintenance work. How well was the utility doing anyway before the strike in terms of maintenance?
Yeah, well, the first thing, the return to work, of course, will take time, number one. And number two, time is needed to firstly address possible damage to the systems at Eskom, the equipment that may have resulted from the stay away, either acts of omission or acts of commission. And then, of course, to slowly bring on stream these units. It does take time to bring a unit back onto the grid, and in times where there are key staff absenteeism, it will obviously take longer. So, yeah, as I say, I think there is a lot of misinformation, misleading media statements coming from all and sundry. It's part of the smoke and mirrors associated with this kind of negotiation and arm flexing and muscle flexing. So I think we're in an uncertain time, but time will tell.
It'll take time, you said, to get everything back up and running, even if the strike ends tomorrow.
Correct.
How much time? Weeks?
Well, Eskom have indicated weeks, yes. It may be quicker, I guess. But, ultimately, we still have a problem. There was stage 2 to stage 4 load shedding, which preceded this industrial action. And that's not going away unless we do some very deep activities that can ameliorate that situation. So what we're going to happen if this strike is over, we're going to revert back to where we were before the strike, and that is stage 2 to stage load shedding happening intermittently. And that is a much more endemic problem that is going to take also time and effort to sort out.
And what work, you hinted at it, what work would need to happen during that period where we're basically trying to get down to stage 2 and ultimately out of this awful blackout period?
Yeah. Well, look, maintenance is always important, whether the plant is brand new or medium or old. So all maintenance efforts have got to continue. But that is not the solution. All that maintenance can do at this point is stabilize the situation at the current unacceptably low levels. The old plant is getting older every year and performing worse every year. The new plant from Medupi and Kusile is late and is performing poorly, but work has to be done to address the design defects and to improve the performance of Medupi and Kusile. None of that is short term. In the meantime, we have a huge generation capacity shortage as a result of the delays at Medupi and Kusile, as well as the very bureaucratic and time-consuming public procurement process by the DMRE and its IPP office through the so-called risk mitigation IPP program, the renewable energy IPP program, the gas to power program, the new coal IPP program. All of these procurements, public procurements, are running late at the moment. And none of them are going to bring new power onto the grid within 2 to 3 years. So we have to start looking at solutions, what can be done in the next 2 years. And that is the challenge, and I must tell you that we should not get despondent. There are solutions. This is a problem that is not beyond us to solve, but it requires a national priority project, a kind of a Marshall Plan, harnessing the resources of all people from government through to a private sector, the mining industry, the municipal sector, even the domestic customers of electricity can bring very significant new generation capacity onto the grid if the right policies are introduced, if the regulatory environment is enabled, and if we do away with legislation and regulations that serve no good purpose.
Chirs Yelland, energy expert, good to have your time. Thank you, sir.